Hello everyone and welcome back to another math video. Today we're going to be talking about how do you find slope and then the x-intercept and the y-intercept when they give you an equation. So similar to this problem that you see at the top of your screen here. Just a reminder, this is the full lesson version, so we're going to go step by step with a bunch of examples. If you'd like the short version, where we just cover the main ideas pretty quickly, I will link that in the description below. Before attempting this lesson, you should already know about slope-intercept form. You should know how to solve equations, and it is optional to know about point slope. So if you want refreshers on any of those, I will link that in the description below. All right, so here's our problem. It says find the slope. You have two ways to do it. Method number one is to solve for the y. So we have our equation, x minus 2. And we should already know how to solve equations, right? So this would be negative 1/2 x. This would be positive 1. That's the distributive property. Again, I'll go through this pretty quickly because this should be, you know how to do this. All right, we need to get the y by itself, so we do plus 8 on both sides. And we end up with y equals negative 1/2 x plus 9. And then we should look at that and say, oh, that's slope-intercept form, right? Slope-intercept form says the number in front of the x is the slope. And so the answer, right, it said find the slope. So the slope of this line is negative 1/2. Okay. Method 2, point slope. If you looked at this, you would know, oh, it's already in point slope. And so point slope says the number in front of the parentheses is the slope. So if you're familiar with point slope, it gives you a little bit of a shortcut here. If not, you can just solve it for y. All right, here's our cool clock for today, made out of a bicycle tire, which means that it is time for you to practice what you just learned. Go ahead and pause the video and try these two problems on your own. And when you're ready, you can unpause the video and we'll check your answers. Okay, now that you've had time to work these problems, let's check your solutions. For the first problem, it already is in slope-intercept form, right? It already says y equals, so you don't have to do any moving around or solving. And we should remember that there's an invisible 1 in front of the x. And so the slope is just 1. For the second problem, you could either look at it as point slope or you could solve for the y. Either way, you should have ended up with a slope of 1/6. All right, so for these, we're still finding slope, but you'll notice for this first problem here, okay, it's not in slope-intercept, it's not in point slope, and so we need to do that process of solving for the y. So we start with this. To get the y by itself, we need to move the 10x over first. So we're going to do minus 10x on both sides. Now we have 12y equals 24 minus 10x. Remember, these can't combine. The 24 and the 10x can't combine because one of them has an x, the other doesn't. And now we need to divide by 12 on both sides. And remember, you divide everything by 12. So now we have y equals 2 minus 10 over 12x. This can be reduced. Y equals 2 minus 5 over 6x. And now that we have it in y equals form, remember the number that's in front of the x is our slope. So our slope is negative 5/6. Final answer. For the second problem, find the slope of the line y equals 18. We need to understand that this is in y equals form, and it's sort of disguised, meaning this is what it actually says. Okay, they don't put 0x because 0x is just 0, it's nothing. But now when you look at this, we just say, okay, the number in front of the x is the slope. So my slope is 0. All right. Another way to look at this, if you're familiar with it, is that if I were to graph this, this would be a horizontal line, and so the slope of a horizontal line is 0. Again, that's extra if you know how to do it. All right, here's our cool clock for today, which means that it's time for you to practice what you just learned. Go ahead and pause the video and try these two problems on your own, and when you're ready, you can unpause the video and we'll check your answers. Okay, now that you've had time to work these problems, let's check your solutions. For the first problem, you should have gotten a slope of -1. Here's the work. And for the second problem, we said that there's a disguised or invisible slope of 0 here. And so there is our answer. All right. Last two things we got to talk about. Number one, x-intercepts. All right, x-intercept. X-intercept. All right, to intercept means to, like in sports, when they intercept the ball, they're cutting it off, or they're, catching it when they're, from the other team. And so an x-intercept is where does the, we'll talk about the purple line first on the left. Where does the purple line hit the x-axis, right? It's called the x-intercept. Well, remember, this is the x-axis here. So here, my x-intercept is 6, 0. For the green line on the right, the x-intercept is here, which is -2, 0. Whoops. Now, what I need us to notice here, all right, there's a pattern happening. Notice that the y-coordinate is 0 for the x-intercept. And so this is going to be important in a second. For an x-intercept, we know that y equals 0. Okay, we're going to use that in a second. Now for y-intercepts, you might have already picked up on the pattern here, but let's double check it here. The y-intercept is 0, -6, and y-intercept is 0, -1. And so you'll see here, for y-intercepts, your x equals 0. All right, that's going to be super important here in just a second. Here we go. So it says find the x and y-intercepts of this line. So we're going to use what we just learned about. Okay, let's start with the x-intercept. For the x-intercept, we're going to change the y to 0. Okay, so here was our original problem. We're going to change the y to 0. So now it says 0 equals -4/11 x plus 4. We're going to subtract 4 on both sides. And we're going to get, not this, where's my fraction? -4/11x, okay? And then to clear the fraction, there are two ways you can do it. You can multiply the reciprocal. You could, remember this is divided by 11, so let's multiply by 11 on both sides. We get -44 equals -4x. Last step is to divide by -4. And we get x equals +11, final answer. Okay, x equals, okay, there we go. All right, that's the x-intercept. For the y-intercept, we need to plug in 0 for the x. So now we have y equals -4/11 times 0 plus 4. This one's easy. Y equals 4. Final answer. For this problem on the right, all right, we're actually going to skip this problem on the right and go to some practice problems. All right, here are 2 practice problems. Go ahead and pause the video and try these 2 problems on your own. And when you're ready, you can unpause the video and we'll check your answers. Okay, now that you've had time to work these problems, let's check your solutions. All right, for the first problem, should have substituted 0 in, gotten an x-intercept of 9/4. You had to reduce a fraction there, or 2.25, I guess. Or you did the y-intercept, and you did the y-intercept, which gave you y equals -27. And for the second problem, you should have gotten an x-intercept of 24 and a y-intercept of +8. All right, that is it for today. I hope you all have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.